So my balls were officially exposed at the gym. And that is not a, what do they call it? A hyperbole. That is not an exaggeration. They were visible, right? No, I didn't pull down my pants. I wasn't like, hey, 60-year-old men on testosterone at 8:30 in the morning when it's unnecessarily packed. Every time I've been at this gym at that time, it's always been clean. Of course, the one day that my balls were visible, they were all there. Now, did anyone see it? I'm not sure. I don't know if that's a slight to myself or just no one was looking. Maybe no one pays attention to me as much as I really do. Maybe that's just my self-importance, thinking that everyone's looking at me. Well, they are. But, so I was doing my incline chest. I was trying to get a decent chest day on 3.5 hours of sleep. So, I know my shorts had a hole in the crotch area. Any of my shorts or pants, and I've noticed this with a lot of guys these days, of all shapes and sizes, not just us guys with the thick thighs, even though they say thick thighs save lives, but I say it creates others. If you have more lives to take care of than you could take care of, then you're really not saving lives. You're actually just killing them. But anyways, yeah. But that's not the issue. There's plenty of holes in shorts. Not a big deal because you know why? You typically have a pair under. You typically have underwear under it, hence underwear. The problem is my underwear was pretty threaded, meaning there was a hole in the same spot under the gooch. The same trajectory. Like you couldn't mask a better laser beam. Like if you would have put a laser through that hole, it would have just went straight on my ball, right? And I realize, like, holy shit, as I'm looking, sometimes I'm not a big look in the mirror guy, but it's kind of natural, when you're doing a dumbbell exercise with your chest, you kind of look down, make sure your arms and your form's okay, and you're like, damn, that's impressive. And then you look about 8 inches below and you're like, I totally don't see the inner part of my thigh while I work out. And then I notice, because we all know our anatomy a little bit too well. We notice every freckle, every wrinkle, every follicle of hair, and I notice the skin tone, I'm not going to say what mine is, but let's just say it's a little different looking than what you see, because it's always covered. I'm not just walking around. It's not going to be as tanned as the rest of me, and saying I'm tanned is pretty the generous of generosity. But yeah. And the whole workout, I noticed at the beginning, the whole workout, I'm in my head. I can't even focus. I'm so worried if I crotch over. I'm so worried if I'm doing a certain exercise. It's visible. I'm looking down. I even tried to do some weird shit where I'm squinching my legs together, but then that feels uncomfortable for obvious reasons because I do have a pair down there. And yeah. And you know how it feels like? It's always, these things happen on the worst days. It always happens when there's the most people there. It always happens when you feel you're around the most uncomfortable type of people. And it's these old guys, They that's the thing. You go to these commercialized gyms, it's a lot of, middle-aged guys who are in decent shape, but you can tell they take a little something, and they're just there to talk on speakerphone with their earbud in and then talk loudly to each other. Just because everyone has earbuds doesn't mean it's a fucking social circle. We're still here to get working. And you never wash your hands either, or the equipment. Probably don't wash your own equipment. But you know what? Neither here nor there. But yeah. I will never understand people that are just let's go to a public place where it's kind of quiet. There's a whole, it echoes. It's not that big of a gym. I can hear your fucking conversation even with my earbuds in. But yeah, my sack was visible. And yeah. And it goes to like all, and it got me thinking, like I kind of hinted to earlier, because I noticed it with people I work with. Now, it's typically a job where you're, bending down a lot, pause. It's a job where it requires the seams of your pants to be at maximum strength. But I noticed it across the board. It seems like all of us guys, I don't know if it's the weakness of these pants, because I remember my dad having jeans for like 12 years. And at worst, they would become a lighter shade of themselves. I don't know, maybe my mom just did laundry really well, and I don't. Maybe our parents, maybe the older generation, it's not just about making your clothes smell good. It's about withholding the fabrics. I don't know what they do, but whatever they do, we don't. And that's why all of our pants are ripping, Is it the food we eat? I don't know. Maybe thighs have just gotten thicker. Maybe bodies have just waist size, it's increased, and they've had to make pants that are more withstanding. But when you have stretchier vibes, when you have stretchier pants, more likely more rips, but yeah, Rip Hamilton. I wish I would have been able to wear a face mask, and I do feel like a guy, because after I noticed it, you just get this weird feeling like, I feel like there's someone that knows. And then how do you do it? Like, if you see someone working out at the gym, right? And let's just say in a guy, like, you can literally see something in the nether regions without really looking. It just happens. You're like, that something just off-putting about it. You look, and next thing you know, you see the tip, you see a ball, you see a little the pubic region, the pelvic. Do you say something? Because you would assume they don't know what they got going on. But yeah, it was nice and breezy. But I will say, anytime I passed a little gas, it was expounded by 3 times. We do not give enough credit to how much our underwear withholds gas. Maybe that's a whole invention for underwear, Literally a whole invention. It's not for sanitary, And we have people that go around commando. So what's really the point of underwear? It's literally to maybe prevent farts, from becoming unbearable. So, I don't know. But yeah. That's actually a true story. Not even exaggerating. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe unconsciously when I dressed that morning, I'm like, hey, you know what the world needs? A little bit of Clint sack, Probably not. Which is odd. Speaking of sacks, I came across a random 30-second clip of Magic Johnson, an old interview of him. It was an interview, not with Barbara Walters, but with it was actually a pretty well-known reporter. A one-on-one interview. It was not long after his diagnosis and stuff. And it was the most random thing. It was like an interview of them asking him, essentially, there's a lot of assumptions. Because at that time, people's idea of HIV and a lot of, transmittable diseases was, you got it by, knocking wood around. And I don't mean knocking boots. Well, unless the 2 dudes had a long day, at the construction site. Then you got a little Brokeback Mountain action. Never saw Brokeback Mountain. But yeah. It's on HBO Max. Am I tempted? Not really. Well, I am alone for the weekend. That's so... No, this is sound offensive. I said that's so gay. Because there's nothing wrong with being gay. But that is odd as a single man just sitting there like, you know what? I could watch The Expendables. I could watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. I could watch, old Sylvester Stallone cliffhanger. Or I could watch a sentiment love story between 2 married men in the woods on a camping site breaking backs. To each their own. But yeah. Like if you were to watch that and you're a straight man and you were to get aroused, Maybe it's the sentiment behind the whole movie that would get you aroused. Maybe it's just like, man, this is a beautiful love story. Two people that are struggling with their identity, struggling with life, and they find solace with each other. You can always respect love in that way. But if you get aroused or you get any type of tingly feeling, is that just human nature reaction to watching two people falling in love? Or is it, hey man, something you want to tell us? But no, anyways. But no, apparently, she basically asked Magic Johnson, people want to know, are you gay? He's like, people always laugh off when they're asked that something. He's like, trust me, man, if I was bisexual, I would be more than open about it. I would be more than happy with it. I have none to hide. I'm a happy guy. You know? And he just keeps going on about it. And I'm like, that's a weird ass question to ask someone anyways. And I understand the climate, the time, get some. And then she kind of turned it about the morality of, well, you know, how do you rationalize, you know, since you're a person of faith and all that stuff, you know, being with multiple, basically living the Hollywood bachelor lifestyle, as they put it, which basically means being a man whore. Respectfully, I'm not saying it's the worst thing, bro. You were Magic Johnson. If I was Magic Johnson, I mean, many women would have gotten pregnant. You know, I'm not saying I'm reckless with the sperm, but what I am saying is at that time, cocaine was a hell of a drug, right? And if I did it a couple nights. Think about it, you play for the Lakers. It's pretty infamous. I actually want to see the Storytime series on HBO, which I have, where it's like basically talking about the Lakers during that era, what it was like after a game, and then these crazy ass parties they would have. Like, as a faithful man, you know, it's always, this is going to be kind of like a touchy subject, you know, because it's not rationalizing, right? But if you're Magic Johnson, in that city, and that type of success you had, like, you know, you're going to contract something, you know. That sounds fucked up to say. But, you know, it wasn't the only one. It was a crazy time. Like, there's probably a lot of, if any of your parents lived during that era, don't ask what they did during that time. They'll always say, oh, you know, I had my fun. And then be like, what type of fun are we talking here? You know, are we talking like going out with the ladies, getting drunk at a nightclub, you know, and then, oh, you know, we kissed a few guys there, like that type of fun? Or are we talking about like, hey, so during a training camp when the Atlanta Falcons came to Buckhead, let's just say they were knucking if you buck all right. And be like, but mom, man, or, you know, like, hey, the Steelers, they're coming in. Hey, actually, the Celtics are coming in Orlando. You know, you live in Orlando. Hey, heard Robert Parrish, Larry Bird are gonna be here. Let's go hang out. You know, I don't know. I'm kind of losing track of my thoughts here. The point is I really don't think we understand how crazy our parents were. I'm not saying mine or yours or everyone in between. All I'm saying is Freaknik existed. And these parties back in the day were infinitely more crazy because they were able to be more crazy because it was just kind of like everyone was out in the open. Everyone was having unprotected sex. Everyone was Charles Manson. Everyone was hypnotizing your girl to fuck him, you know. No one was safe. I actually would make an argument. I believe that cheating was way more rampant back in the day than it is now. It's too controlled now. Like, the only difference now and then is everyone finds out about it. It's not that hard to find out. But back in the day, for obvious reasons, it was easier to get away with it. But that was probably, it was like, it probably felt more spontaneous. It didn't feel like you were, why the fuck am I talking about? It didn't feel like you were, artificially seeking something. Like, everyone was very free-flowing. Everyone was free-spirited. Our idea of being free-spirited these days and being adventurous is, I'm disattached from society. I'm going off the grid and doing what no one else is doing. It's like, just trying to avoid community isn't really being adventurous. Quite the opposite. And, I was actually having this conversation earlier. Don't worry, I have my balls covered at this session at the gym. And I love running into this guy. We just have natural conversations. And it just flows and we get lost. Like, he's an older guy, like mid-30s. And we got to the topic of talking about community. He was talking about how him and his friends back in college, the only things he really misses is just like the hangs. He said what this generation is missing the most is, and by this generation, my generation, well, because I didn't even really experience all this stuff. It kind of stopped, like, in my generation. Like, friends hang out, but it's not like, you're not really taking where the night takes you. It's really like, everyone's got to know what's going to happen. Where are we going? What, like, oh, if we're not doing this, like, they'll be flaky. Like, back, it was just about, hey, let's go here and let the night take us. It's that natural male bonding, female bonding, where you naturally meet people. That's what stimulation's about. And the issue is beyond the phones of being overstimulated where you become so numb to things. And his point was like, really what it creates is it makes people lack community. Because you're seeking individualistic monikers for yourself. Where what a community does, it not only makes it feel like people bring value to you, but in return, by being in that good environment, you're going to bring value to others. Making people feel good is a valuable thing. You ever been around someone, when you see them, you're just like, hey man, what's up? And you smile, and that conversation could be 20 seconds, or you guys could talk for 2 hours about something that just started, just because you just feel comfortable around that person. You feel like, hey, it's more than just filling the time. It's really about being present in that community. And an example I gave is like, yeah, that's why there's a lot more people that are so obsessed with being, their idea of being adventurous is going off the grid, going to national parks all the time, or traveling, or it's like, if you just have spontaneity in everyday life, if you live your life just like in a more natural way where it's not all about what you get out of something, and you build a community, you build a family, or you build a good friendship with people, you build good relationships, you're not really going to feel the need to go outside of anything, Like, your real world is in there. And I even gave an example of myself, and he's one of those people, like, you just start talking, and you start just not like oversharing, but you just kind of feel like you say stuff about yourself, like, yeah, you know what? Honestly, it's like when we talk about isolation, there's good things, because we were talking about our partners. He's married. I have a very serious girlfriend, and he said, being married is like the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And it's like someone that you can confide in. He's like, being married was easier than dating, like, in the weirdest way, And what he's like, all that stuff, like, you have a woman that cares about you, loves you, she tolerates a lot, but there's also things she won't tolerate, like, and something we relate on is like, sometimes we come home, we're annoyed, we're stressed, we can be jerks, and sometimes that's true, and you have to have that woman in your life, someone to check you, because the issue is like, just anyone, man or woman, because sometimes you live in your own isolated world. There's a lot of good to it, you don't have to worry about anything else. You have nothing to be responsible for yourself. You do what you want. You have more time to do things. You have freedom. You don't have to think about if I'm doing this, how it's affecting blah, blah, blah. Like, and it's great. But sometimes you live in your own isolated world. You kind of have this aimless direction of your ambition and goals. And sometimes you need someone there to be like, you sure you're really doing this the way you say you are, the way you aspire to be? And he said, when you have kids, all that shit, like, doubles down. Like, you really just don't care about anything but, them. At least if you not Jodi Arias. Or, what is it, Casey Anthony? Yeah, it's just misunderstood, Babies fall in the pool all the time. You just look at them like, they got it. But yeah. She probably really thought that Nirvana album cover was real. Like, hey, the baby on Nirvana survived, But, well, turned into a heart-shaped box real quick. All right. That baby will never smell like Teen Spirit. Damn, that was really fucked up. I'm sorry for even saying that. Come as you are. But yeah. But no, we were talking about the community aspect. And sometimes we isolate. We can't go do this isolation thing. Thinking we're working on ourselves and all this stuff. But really it's just an excuse to just prolong a unreal world. And people want community, they always stress they want community, but they do. But a lot of us, we really avoid it at all costs. Like, most people don't, and this is something I've had to work on recently, and I've been more mindful of, is like, I don't initiate enough time with people. I just assume if people stop talking or texting or calling me to hang out, I just assume they're busy. I just assume we're cool, but, stuff happens. And sometimes it's like you got to make that initial effort, and that's part of community. It's really a back and forth. It's a give and take, and we really a lot of times isolate to avoid those uncomfortable interactions. We're afraid to be told no. We're afraid to be told like, yeah, you're not as important to me as you once were. Like, yeah, you really kind of made this feel one-sided. People are afraid to have that uncomfortable dialogue. And like, that's 10 minutes of uncomfortability could have saved 4 years of distance. That's the crazy part. But we would rather live in our bubble. And that is real. Something we got into, and I'm like, damn. It's crazy how just going to learn how to do lateral raises turns into you laterally raising your frequency. Which apparently creatine is amazing for your cognitive. So I'm about to start taking creatine, right? I don't know when. I don't know how. Got to order the shit. But I want to see. Creatine has been. Me and him talked about this too. Creatine. Every influencer, YouTuber, famous YouTuber, science-based talk about it. No one has ever said a bad thing about creatine. It's one of those things where like literally every single person is like, nah, this shit's pretty good. And then us that actually exercise and work out, we spend money on this and that. We spend the time and we're just like, not going to invest in that. But this cool pre-workout makes my balls and head tingle. It's crazy. It's one of the most highly science-based, like literally no one will say a real bad thing. Everyone that has used it has pretty much said like, yeah, no, it works. And it's one of those things where just like, maybe. But here we are taking a bunch of people taking amino acids and shit. Like, that fucking matters, And so, yeah, I'm going to start taking creatine and I'm going to blow the fuck up. And people will be like, oh, you're on juice. And be like, if this is juice, wait until I'm on the juice, Juicy juice. Except no added sugars here, baby. But yeah, welcome. The episode 298 of the Off and Beat podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, most important ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah. Recording this on September 6, 2024 at 10:34 p.m. Eastern. I gotta say, man, Charleston White. I don't even remember half the stuff this guy said in these clips I've watched the past like 12 hours. They just keep popping my algorithm. It's like the show where it's him, and it almost seems like his cousin or his twin. They don't really look alike, but same energy. Like, just know if you're around these two dudes, they are roasting the shit out of you. And you got nothing to come back with. But it was these two dudes, empty white room. A girl will come up with a microphone and basically try to persuade them why, like, what's wrong with them or what they need and why they deserve. And these dudes were just roast. Like, I think there was this one girl. She went up there. She said something like, I forgot the term she used. But this man said, turn on. He said, turn around. She's like, oh, I got no ass. She's like, nice. No ass, all guts. I'm like, bro. I love a bitch with no ass and all guts. I'm like, you know, I respect the man's preference. I respect the man's honesty of what he likes and all that stuff. I was just so thrown off. This man could just make sayings on the spot. I'm sure he's probably said that before, but that means this man has enough life experience. He's seen every situation, and he just has a natural saying or reaction to everything. But yeah. God. But yeah, you know, a lot going on out here. Every time I say that. You know how I didn't even know there was another football game on tonight. I was going about my day. All of a sudden I get a notification at 8:03. Hey, the Eagles are playing the Packers. And I'm like, shit, I got to get home and watch it. I'm like, I don't have to get home and watch it. But someone's like, man, I miss fucking football. I come home. It's probably like kind of like early on in the second quarter. And it's just dynamic, bro. The field is shit. Jordan Love literally like almost sprained his fucking ankle. Dudes are slipping all over the place. And did you know that Brazil, the metro area of Brazil, has 23 million people, bro? For context, as they said in the telecast, I didn't research it. It's literally what the silent reporter said. So if I'm wrong, the metro areas of Philadelphia and Green Bay combined is around 6 million. That means Brazil's metro is literally almost four times the amount. No, wait. Yeah, 4 times the amount of these two states combined. Now, Brazil's a pretty big country, I guess, you know. If I remember, it's like, you know, a diamond-looking thing with a little tail at the bottom. Like, yeah, Brazil's a pretty big country. And apparently we have these, is it Brazilian mobs or Venezuelan mobs and taking over Colorado? But yeah, it's a lot going on. A lot of gangs, a lot of violence. And so I was listening to something earlier about a former mob boss named Michael. I don't know, mob boss. He's like part of the mafia. I haven't listened to the whole episode, but I have heard about him before. He's been on a lot of podcasts before. I think his name is Michael Francesi. Something like that. Michael Francesi. And apparently, this dude would make bank. You know, he was kind of he wasn't like the leader of the it wasn't like the leader of the mafia, but pretty big name in it, you know. This man's dad, apparently, according to the FBI, is responsible for like 30 to 35 murders. And so the podcaster asked him, I understand this is going to be a weird question to ask you because ask him to put your dad in your, you know, is your dad, with knowing that, do you think your dad is a good person? And that's a weird thing, right? Can someone be a good person and murder 30 to 35 people? Even if it's a loved one. But the way this man would describe his dad, he would describe him like, look, outside of the thing, he was a normal dad. Like in the household, like we knew what he did to an extent younger. But like, when we're at home, he's not like bringing work home with him. Like, and he even mentioned like he knew like the reason why he would meet his dad at his house, because he knew he felt safe there, because he knew nothing would happen in terms of no one would come to his house and nothing like that. It was like just respect. You don't do that shit. And like, if you know someone that has murdered 30, 35 people, does it automatically disqualify them from being a good person, even if the people they murdered is just like this internal war in between its own community? And the way he described is, well, for the most part, what you got to understand is most people he killed was within our community, meaning the mafia community, like in that business. So really, anyone we killed, it was like self-policing. You break the respect code, we kill you. Like, that's just how this stuff works. And it's like, the only people affected was them and their families. Like, this isn't like a worldwide, this isn't a race thing, this isn't anything. He's like, you know, this is how everyone that we killed, they knew the rules we had, and they need to be punished for it. So it's almost like you're doing, in their eyes, you got to think about the world that they live in. They're just doing their own policing, they're just doing their own service in their own community or world. And that's the weird dilemma. Because is it necessary? You know, to people on the outside, no. But at the same time, they're not going to kill you until you're in the way of their own shit, right? It's not like random kill. They're not just going out killing people for the most part, you know? Of course, there's people that are going to abuse their power and stuff like that. But the people that are really in it, you know? And it kind of puts you in a weird moral spot where it's like, the man could be a great father. The man could have been a great family man. The man could have had great values and all this stuff. But his job, or what he has decided to do with his life as a profession, what makes his living, there's some things that come with that territory. And, you know, you could compare it to anything on a lesser serious level. You know, there's certain things that come with certain jobs that aren't. It comes with territory. It's going to come with overtime. It could come with plaguing injuries, lingering injuries, lower back injuries. It could come with just the stress kills a person. The hours, the amount of hours that depletes someone's sleep cycle. And like Andrew Huberman, and he mentioned something like the worst thing for your health is inconsistent sleep patterns. It's not the amount of hours you sleep on a given night. Like, your body can adjust one night getting 7, the next getting 5, the next getting 4.5, the next getting 6. Like, your body can adjust, right? What it can't adjust to, what you're going to have a hard time where you could be in danger of falling into like some sleep psychosis where you could fall asleep over time, and it damages your digestive system. It damages your aging. It damages how well you can process food. Everything, which affects everything, is quote unquote what he called the swing shift schedule, where for a couple weeks you work overnight, a couple weeks you work early, and then next week this and that. It's like, whatever job you do, it doesn't really matter if you're working from midnight to noon, or if you're working from noon to midnight, noon to 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. It's about going to sleep around the same time, getting a consistent amount of sleep, eating enough nutritional food. That's what's going to matter. And so, I don't know why that came up naturally. But yeah, that's just the point of all this. It's all about how you want to rationalize it. I don't know if I'll be a good mob boss, you know? Probably not. I can see myself being the son of a mob boss, you know. They would definitely be saying, cut your hair, you turd. You know, it's odd. And I'm not even joking when I say this. I legitimately got an offer to cut my hair. I'm not going to say what I wanted in return to do so, because it'll kind of give it away what I'm saying, but it is odd to me. It's like, people want you to like cut your hair, and you say no, and people will assume that it's like, oh, you have an attachment to your hair. Like, oh no, hair is who he is. That's like part of who he is. It's like, no, it's not about being a part of who I am. It's, I don't care to go through the trouble of figuring out what hairstyle I want, for one. Two, if you are going to ask me to cut my hair, or to request like, hey, you know, it might be for like, you know, some bonding, team bonding. You know, be like, oh, you know, it's like great, you know, it's a great team building thing. It's like, okay. I mean, we just shave my pubes and, you know, that'll build something together. But nah. And I'm like, it's just the point that like, and then when you ask for something like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Can I get this? And they're like, no, that's a little steep. Like, okay, well, I'll do this. And be like, nah, how about less than that? And you're like, you're the one wanting me to do it. All right, you got to meet me on my terms. This is random. It came up. It is what it is. But, like, I was not in the mode of like, I'm going to do this today. And like, oh, well, you know what? Since the stars align, I'll do it for this. I'm like, no, you want it. If you're going to kick me out of my house, you're going to pay me to have my house. You know? Like, if the government, if they want to do some construction and zoning stuff around your house that you own, they have to pay you to do so. They have to buy you out. They have to pay for whatever relocation, temporary housing, or whatever. When they want to do shit around your house or tear down your house, like, they got to pay you for that shit, right? And since they got to pay you, you can demand kind of whatever the fuck you want. It's like, hey, I didn't ask this. You guys want to build a whole power line here. You want to build a rec baseball field. Cool. $2 million. Your house value is only $280,000. Not today. You're the one who wants to build a whole rec center that for the next 20 years is going to generate you guys hundreds of millions of dollars. So I think you could cough up a couple mil. All right. That you're going to use my tax dollars on the $2 million you give me, take a quarter and 40% of that anyway. So you know what? Give me the $2 million so I can just get 1.2 million. All right. It's not too much to fucking ask for. But yeah. So, it's just odd. Like, don't lowball me. Like, you got, like, y'all in no leverage. Like, no one's got leverage. Like, my hair is sticking to me. Now more than ever. You know what? Now I'm attached to my hair because there was resistance. Because you know what? I fought for it. I worked hard to do nothing with my hair. I worked hard to get it in knots and brush it out again and again and again. I worked hard for it. And for people to try to lowball you for something they have no part of, it really ain't that serious. I'm kind of exaggerating. But still, it is the point. It's like, if you're going to come to my neck of the woods, you're going to be ready for it today. For some reason, every time I think of Al Roker, I just think about the Thanksgiving Day parade. I remember growing up, and for some reason, like, the Thanksgiving Day parade, like, I actually been to one. I've been to it before. It's actually, I was younger. It was back when New York didn't feel as expensive. Then as you get older, you realize, God damn, how did we afford these trips? I mean, if you're a middle-class family, you cannot take a vacation to New York for more than 3 days without mortgaging your house, bro. Just walking around, going to a museum here, going to a restaurant here, walking around. Someone's going to mug you. Like, you know, you're going to be done. Like, you're going to be done after 3 days. Like, that's the crazy part, man. New York is let's just say I have someone close to me that's went to New York recently. By recently, I mean today. And they literally said just being here for 2 hours has stressed me the fuck out, bro. She didn't say bro, but just being there in that crazy environment, even if you have lived there, even if you're adjusted to it, it is just stress. It is just no moment to just, you always gotta be on alert. And it's weird. Like, that's part of the beauty, like the stress, the alert, the living in the moment. Even though I would suggest, like, even go to New York now or these big cities, it don't really feel like people are living in the moment. People are just attached to what they could record in the moment. And then they live in it later. And that's all I think about memories. Memories are fascinating, like taking pictures and videos of things. What's that balance between wanting to look at something months from now or years from now? Something like, I don't care to take pictures of videos, but I'll be honest, like, if I had kids, I would probably double down and start taking a shitload of videos. I think it's just like, I'm not, regardless of what people may think, I'm not that self-absorbed to look at myself, to take pictures or videos of things. Like, I think there's an assumption that people that go to the gym or that work out or exercise, that work hard for the body they have, we're all just taking pictures of ourselves all the time in the bathroom. And there are ones that do it. There are people that look in the mirror and between each set and are just fascinated with themselves, And there's nothing wrong with that to an extent. I've learned to become more appeasable to. There's ones like me and people I know where I don't even look in the mirror most time at the gym. Unless it's unnatural not to look. Like, if you're doing something, you're kind of watching how you're doing stuff. If you actually care about how you're moving, what you're moving, then yeah. You're going to watch to make sure your angles, you're not bending your elbows too far in and out. You want to make sure your shoulder, interior delts are actually really, pushing the weight. But yeah. I think there's this assumption that we are just self-absorbed with ourselves, and I'm quite the opposite. I'm not. And I typically think people that are always taking pictures and videos, my first assumption, for better or worse, is, man, these people really like looking at themselves all day, right? It's like, man, let me take a picture or video of me doing this so I could look at itself by myself later in my own house, looking at what I did earlier, because that's what I'm doing now. Everything is just a cycle of myself. But that's a weird way of looking at it, because, we have pictures when we were younger. Now, obviously, times have changed. You used to take pictures and wait 48 hours to see them, however they fucking did it. I still don't know how they did it back in the day. It's like you see in the crime scene shows where they have the dark lit, red lighted room and they have these pictures underwater and shit. Maybe those are for more choreographed stuff. I don't know. And then, back in the day, you would take pictures and then turn the film in. You would go to like a pharmacy and they would have a little camera area, and that's how most people would do it. Nowadays, you don't even need that shit 99% of the time. So, it's just kind of like... But, one thing, and this is part of maturing, is that I do see the value of memories. Thanks for the memories, because I will fall out, boy. The boy's mine. That's not one. Every block boy needs a little love. I'ma shoot it up, what it is. What's up? But yeah. Memories. It's weird because you'll see like, I don't really go on Snapchat anymore. It's kind of odd the older you get to be on Snapchat, to be pretty honest with you. So, but sometimes like, almost like, and it reminds me how much I used to like regularly do stuff, talk to people on Snapchat, That's how you meet up with people, post stories. And the whole idea of like posting stories and stuff, now it's like cringe thinking about I used to do that shit. But at the same time, also made me think maybe at that time of my life, I was doing more things to be enthusiastic about. So it was like that weird thing, like you criticize your older self, but you got to remember, like, do you remember how much happier you were? You remember how much less worried you were just living, You didn't have this to worry about, that to worry about. You basically just didn't hold yourself to enough responsibility that you're taking a picture of yourself pulling resistant bands with your 290-pound bloated alcoholic body. It is weird when you look at pictures of yourself like, man, I had some chubby cheeks. I mean, the actual cheeks, not those. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were chubby, but those were the least of my worries. It's odd, though, to look at your old self, if you've had body transformations, or just thinking about, like, if you see a picture, like, 5 years ago. Think about like that's 2019. Just remember the mindset you were in 2019. It really is like, as corny as it sounds, they say I think it's like every 70 days? Is it every 2 years? I don't remember. It's either like a really short number or like a pretty like a longish number, but all of our cells recycle out of our body with new cells, like all the original cells you have in your body right now, it's either like 7 weeks or 2 months or 2 years or whatever it is. All of it will be out of your body and there'll be new cells. And typically with those, you're going to change this all. Like you really are like a different version of a person you are. As corny and as sluggish and as lazy, it really is true. Like I think about 2 years ago, then 2 years before that. 2 years before that, and I'm like, man, like not only was life different, how I viewed things was different, how I was able to communicate about things was different, how well I took care of myself was different at different times. How did I let myself go down such a deep rabbit hole, and how did I just get lost where it's been like, I don't even remember what day it is because I'm not even worried about what day it is, That's the crazy part. Like, think about how much life has changed over 10 years. Like, I'm 28. And I think about when I was 18, how different life was. Some good, some not so much. I have a whole lot going for me. And now, I do think I got some things going for me. I have things I care about. I have a reason to care about things. We have a reason to care about things. Like, even if you don't have the highest paying job, even if you don't have, your passion hasn't become a living yet, or it's on a plateau here and there, even if you have struggles with things, like you really realize like your ability to overcome things for most people becomes way stronger over time because you just have had too much experience in adversity to let certain things dictate how you view things. And that's why I'm skeptical of everything. And the thing that I think I match with people, and by match I mean like I'm able to easily talk to people who are skeptical about things. Because we talk about things and it sounds like we're just shitting on things, but it's really like we understand how absurd we sound when we're skeptical about everything. Or we have skepticism behind intentions. I think that's my thing. I'm skeptical behind intentions of things. Like, what's the real reason you're pushing this shit on me? Like, what's the reason you're trying to sell me this product? What is the reason you want me to have your average ass chicken tenders so fucking bad? Tell me. What do you get out of it? What if I don't like it? Would you have rather had a negative response than no response at all? But skepticism keeps you alive. I don't know. I just vibe. I just vibe with people that are skeptical. I need a little negativity is good for the heart. Too much positivity, you're just obnoxious. A little negativity, thinking some people ain't shit, thinking that some people are just never going to be better than you. No, just kidding. But I do think that you need to have positive outlook, but you need to be like, this is part of like living your own bubble. Like, you gotta be realistic with things about yourself. Like, it is okay to look at yourself and be like, I do not care to do X, Y, and Z. I just don't care to do it. I think we feel this need that we gotta always care to do certain things we don't want to do. You have certain responsibilities. You got certain things that, depending on those responsibilities, you need to fucking do. You just have to do it. But at the same time, you really don't have to. You just don't want the ramifications that come with that. And the ramifications can be an uncomfortable conversation with people. Ramifications could be you don't have a home to live in. Ramifications could be you won't have any food to eat. The ramifications could be, you might get shot. Ramifications could be sometimes the most minor of things that we just don't want to deal with, so we just keep the status quo. And sometimes the ramifications are, it's probably good if you just keep this to yourself, if you, and it was like and this is a less serious thing, but like, it was like a voiceover short I saw where this man, a 15, I think they were married for 13 years, him and his wife. The kids were starting to move out of the house, are getting to that age, and she apparently wanted to attest to him that she's lesbian. And she felt like she's been living a lie, and now that the kids, she wants to explore that. Imagine like kind of just, and his reaction, naturally, he just got up and walked out. Not like walked out of a relationship, but he just walked out of the room and needed a day or two to himself. And she shamed him for not being supportive of and apparently the kids also started shaming him for not loving, not trying to understand mom and all that stuff. Like, and it's like, okay, so let me have you understand something. It's not about supporting your mom. It's not about having an issue that she happens to be a lesbian. It's the fact that she knew this about herself. She had me invest my life, having kids together, creating a life together, getting married, sacrificing all these resources I have, with none of this ever coming up. And just in a split second like that, I'm just supposed to be like, hey, you know what? If that's what you need. It's like, no, like I invested my whole life into this. Why is that not being invested? Like, you basically, that's a pretty big thing to not be transparent about. But people will make it like he has a problem that she's lesbian. It's like, I mean, if you're married for 15 or 13, 15 years and you have kids together, like, yeah, it's kind of a bad time, I'm not saying suck it up for the rest of your life. Well, maybe you should suck it up. If you suck it up this one time, I'll forgive you for the past 13 years of lying. That explained why you didn't like giving me head. I'm creating this false version. Anyways. Which I'm sure a lesbian, she's either, it's got to go one way or the other. She is either the absolute worst at giving a guy head, or she's the absolute best, which would make even more of a shame. If she's just that damn good. It's like, hey, I know you're lesbian over there, but you could be straight over here. Put you on the straight arrow path. Just sit on this arrow and let me Braveheart that pussy. I'm kidding. But yeah, I guess the moral of all that is just don't lie. Be morally understanding. Just be morally understand what we're putting people through. And yeah. Suck some titties. Yeah. Camera's about to die. So that was episode 298 of the Offbeat Podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, most of our ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to suck some titties. Have a great day, morning, night, evening, and don't forget, pew pew. Ooh, look at these bad boys. Meep meep. All right, have a great day.